I whispered, "No." But my body didn't listen. He was close, too close. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his chest, the way his breath disturbed the little hairs near my ear. I told myself this wasn't supposed to happen, not here, not with him. But everything around us felt suddenly quiet. The laughter from the other room faded. The music blurred. And there we were. Frozen. His fingers had barely brushed my wrist when I stepped back. A small instinctive retreat. A line I drew in the sand. Or tried to. Because as I stepped back, I didn't pull my hand away. That's when I realized I wasn't really trying to stop him. I was pretending. Pretending to be the good girl. Pretending I didn't want this. Pretending the pulse in my throat wasn't thundering from the thought of him closing that inch between us. He watched me. His eyes scanned my face, not with hunger, but with hesitation. Like he was waiting for permission I wasn't brave enough to give. So I whispered it. The word I was supposed to say. No. But it came out soft. Trembling. A warning with no teeth. A door I was only half-heartedly trying to close, even as my body leaned forward, aching for it to stay open. And then just barely he touched me again. And this time I didn't flinch. I wish I could say this was a surprise, that I didn't see it coming. But the truth is, I've been dancing around this moment for weeks. His name is Matt. And he's my best friend's older brother. We weren't supposed to be alone that night. It was supposed to be game night at their apartment, board games, beer, the usual chaos. But one by one people left early. And suddenly it was just us in the kitchen, lit by the soft yellow glow of the hanging bulb, with the scent of cinnamon from the cookies still lingering in the air. We weren't drunk. We weren't even tipsy, which somehow made it worse. Every glance felt heavier. Every silence felt like a question we were too scared to answer. I'd known Matt for years. He was always the one who stayed quiet at parties, the one who offered to do the dishes, who remembered how I took my coffee. And somewhere along the way, that familiarity started turning into something else. I began to notice the way his eyes lingered, the way his voice dropped when he said my name, and I started leaning in just a little too close when we talked, laughing a little softer, wearing things I knew he liked, though I never admitted it to myself. There were rules, lines. But that night, in the stillness of the kitchen, every rule felt like it had been made for someone else. I looked at him, at the way his jaw tensed when I moved. I could feel it, that slow gravitational pull between two people trying not to fall. He said my name like a question. I didn't answer. Instead, I looked at his hand, the one still holding mine. And I didn't let go. I could have walked away. There was still time, a fraction of a second, a breath, a blink, where I could have stepped back, laughed it off, called it nothing. But I didn't. Because it wasn't nothing. It hadn't been for a long time. His thumb moved slightly against my skin, tracing an invisible pattern on the inside of my wrist. My breath caught. My chest rose slow and tight. Everything felt louder, the ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, the sound of my heartbeat pounding against the silence. I should have said something. But my mouth didn't work the way it used to. My thoughts had blurred into sensation. He was still waiting, watching me with this impossible stillness, like he was afraid one wrong move would shatter whatever was holding us in place. Then he stepped closer. Just a little. His hand rose, hesitant at first, until his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. And I closed my eyes. Not because I wanted him to stop, but because I wanted to feel every second of what came next. His fingertips traced the edge of my jaw, soft, reverent, almost apologetic. Like he was touching something he thought he didn't deserve. My whole body responded, skin tightening, breath shortening, stomach twisting in that way that made it hard to stand still. This wasn't about lust. It was something deeper. Worse. It was that dangerous kind of wanting that builds in silence, over time, beneath smiles and shared secrets. He leaned in. I felt the brush of his breath before I felt his lips. Not kissing yet, just hovering. Waiting. I whispered, "We shouldn't." But my body arched forward like it had made its own decision. He paused, forehead to mine, and whispered back, "Then tell me to stop." And I couldn't. The second our lips met, the world dissolved. There were no rules anymore. No history, no consequences, just the raw, aching now of it. His kiss wasn't rushed. It was slow, deliberate, like he was learning me by memory. Like he already knew he'd need to remember this. I melted into it not because I meant to but because I didn't know how not to. My hands found the fabric of his shirt, clinging to it like a lifeline. His fingers brushed my waist, hesitating before pulling me closer. That touch, firm but careful, made my breath hitch in a way I couldn't hide. It was terrifying how much I wanted him. Not just his body, though God, every inch of me was aching to close the space between us, but the safety I felt in his arms, the way he kissed me like he'd been waiting forever to do it right. It was the kind of kiss that didn't just live on your lips. It settled in your chest, echoing in your ribs long after it was over. But it wasn't over. Not yet. His lips moved to my cheek, then my neck, so slow, so warm, and I tilted my head before I realized I was doing it. A soft sound escaped me, embarrassingly honest. His hand tightened at my waist. That's when I pulled back barely, just enough to look him in the eyes. "We can't," I said, even as my hand stayed tangled in his shirt. "I know," he said, forehead resting against mine. "But I can't stop thinking about you." The worst part was, I didn't want him to. I didn't want any of this to stop. Even if it should. Even if it would hurt later. For that moment all I wanted was him. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was me. But the next moment was a blur of heat and breath and surrender. His hands cradled my face like I was breakable. Like if he held me too tightly I'd shatter. And maybe I would have if he hadn't kissed me just then so deep and aching it made my knees weaken. I didn't care that we were in his sister's kitchen. I didn't care that we had no excuse. All I could feel was the rhythm of his heartbeat against mine, the way his fingers spread across the small of my back, grounding me even as I was unraveling. There was nothing polite about it anymore. It wasn't frantic, but it was hungry. Desperate in the way quiet storms are. Building slow but heavy with meaning. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a version of me that had been waiting beneath the surface. A version that didn't ask permission to want. He kissed me like he already knew what I liked. And somehow he did. There were pauses, though. That's what made it worse, better, maybe. Those moments where we'd stop just long enough to look at each other. To breathe. To ask the question in our eyes. Are we really doing this? But neither of us pulled away. Because the truth had already settled between us. Heavier than guilt. We'd already done it. Not the act, the choice. The moment I whispered no but didn't move. The moment he touched my wrist and I didn't let go. That was when the line was crossed. Everything after that was just gravity. Afterward we didn't say anything. We just stood there, barely touching, barely breathing, like the moment had hollowed us out and we were afraid to fill it with words. The kitchen light buzzed softly above us. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the hallway, a door creaked in the quiet. And suddenly the weight of what we'd done pressed in from every side. I looked at him, really looked. And for the first time I didn't know what he was thinking. There was warmth still lingering on his skin where my fingers had been. But his eyes were unreadable. He exhaled slowly, then said my name like it was a prayer and a problem all at once. "I didn't plan this," he whispered. "I know," I said, my voice barely there. "Neither did I." But we both knew that wasn't the whole truth. 'Cause sometimes you don't need a plan. Just enough silence. Enough chemistry. Enough pretending not to feel what you've been feeling all along. And once that dam breaks, you can't go back. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gentlest thing. A gesture that nearly undid me. "I don't regret it," he said. And neither did I. But I also didn't know what would happen next. What we'd say to his sister. What we'd become. All I knew was that for one night I let myself stop pretending. And it tasted like something I wasn't ready to give up.